The sun hung low over the horizon, casting long amber shadows across the vast untamed plains of the American frontier. The wind whispered through the dry grass, carrying with it stories of the past, secrets of the mountains, and the silent songs of the rivers at the edge of a small weathered town named Red Rock. A lone cowboy sat astride his horse, dust coating his boots and hat, eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for something he could not name. His name was Caleb McAllister, a man known across the frontier for his courage, his honor, and his uncanny ability to survive when others would not. But even a man like Caleb carried a heart marked by loneliness, for he had spent decades wandering, protecting strangers and fighting battles that never made it into the tales told by firesides. It had been 20 years since that fateful day, a day etched in his memory with such vivid detail that he could still see the small, terrified Apache girl, barely 8 years old, hiding near the edge of the canyon. Bandits had descended upon her village without mercy, and while the townsfolk stayed behind locked doors, Caleb had ridden into the fray, his pistols blazing, his horse thundering across the rocky terrain. By nightfall, the attackers were gone, and the girl, her face streaked with dirt and tears, was safe. Though alone and lost, Caleb had given her a place to recover, ensured she had food, and gently tried to guide her toward a future she could embrace. But life on the frontier is relentless, and soon, as the girl's family struggled to reclaim her, she vanished into the labyrinth of plains and mountains, leaving Caleb with only a memory and a lingering sense of unfulfilled responsibility. Now, decades later, as Caleb tightened the straps on his saddle and prepared to ride into town for provisions, a sudden movement caught his eye. Dust swirled along the trail like a mirage, and as it parted, a figure emerged. She was no longer the small child he had saved. She had grown into a striking young woman, her eyes sharp and bright, her hair dark and flowing like a river of night. Her clothing was simple yet elegant in a way that suggested both practicality and pride, a mixture of her Apache heritage and the time spent traveling through the unforgiving frontier. As she approached, her gaze locked on Caleb with a mix of familiarity and determination that made his heart tighten. "Cowboy," she called out, her voice steady yet trembling with emotion. "I came to find you, to marry you." The words struck Caleb like lightning. His mind raced, memory after memory flooding back. The frightened girl he had shielded from harm, the promises he had never spoken aloud, the silent hope that she had survived, that she had grown strong, and now, standing before him, was proof that she had not only survived but thrived. "I'm the girl you saved, the lost Apache girl you saved 20 years ago." The town itself seemed to pause, the clamor of merchants and horses fading. As the moment stretched into eternity, Caleb dismounted slowly, his hands trembling. As he reached out, "It can't be. Is it really you?" he whispered, disbelief and hope mingling in his voice. The woman smiled, a mixture of joy and sorrow, and nodded, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. She had traveled countless miles across harsh deserts and rugged mountains, guided by nothing but the memory of the man who had once risked everything to protect a child he did not. No, she had followed the legend of his courage, hoping that if she could find him, she could repay a debt that no words could ever fully express. As they walked toward each other, the wind seemed to carry whispers from the past, of battles fought and lives saved, of promises made in silence, and of a love that had lain dormant, waiting for the right moment to bloom. Caleb felt a warmth he had not known in decades, a sensation that life could still surprise a man who had believed he had seen everything the frontier had to offer. And yet, with every step, both of them felt the weight of the years they had lost, the dangers she had endured, and the uncertainty of the future. How would the town react? Would the frontier, cruel and unforgiving, allow two souls to find peace after so much time apart? Before they could speak further, a group of rough-looking men emerged from the shadows, their eyes narrowing at the sight of Caleb, and the mysterious woman. Trouble had a way of finding him, even after 20 years. And Caleb knew that the safety she had once found in him was not guaranteed now. He instinctively placed himself between her and the threat, his hand hovering near his revolver, the memories of past skirmishes coursing through him like a familiar river. She stepped forward, a quiet resolve shining in her gaze. "I can help," She said, "I've learned much in the years since you saved me. Let me stand with you." And in that instant, Caleb realized that the girl he had rescued was no longer a child needing protection. She was a partner, a warrior in her own right, a woman who had survived the frontier's harshest trials and returned, not just to find him, but to stand beside him, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. And as the sun dipped below the hills, casting long shadows across the town of Red Rock, Caleb felt a spark of hope he had not felt in decades. The story of the lost Apache girl was not just one of survival. It was a story of destiny, courage, and love rekindled against all odds. And for those watching, witnessing the reunion of two souls, bound by fate, the frontier suddenly seemed less vast, less lonely, and full of the promise that even in the wildest of lands, miracles could still happen. Don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next chapter, where the past and present collide in ways that will keep your heart racing until the very last moment. The night fell over Red Rock with a silence only the frontier could command. Stars spilled across the sky like shards of silver, and the campfire in the center of town crackled, casting dancing shadows on the faces of those who had come to witness the reunion. Caleb and the woman, her name finally revealed, was Ayani, sat side by side, sharing a warmth that no fire could replicate. They spoke little at first, letting the silence speak volumes, each lost in memories of the past and the uncertain promise of the future. Ayani recounted her journey across deserts and mountains, of tribes she had lived with, of battles fought and survived, and of a relentless determination to find the man who had once saved her life. Caleb listened, awe mingling with disbelief, realizing that the fragile child he had once held in his arms had grown into a woman capable of enduring trials that would have broken lesser souls. As dawn approached, the town stirred. News of Ayani's arrival spread like wildfire, drawing townsfolk and travelers alike. Whispers filled the air, questions of who she was, where she had come from, and what her intentions might be. But Caleb knew, as did Ayani, that the only voice that mattered was the one that had been echoing in their hearts for 2 decades, the call of destiny. That had reunited them, yet danger was never far on the frontier. A gang of bandits, notorious across several counties, had been monitoring Caleb's movements, hoping to seize the ranch he had built and the wealth he had earned through years of honest labor. The very people who had once forced Ayani to flee her home now threatened the fragile peace she had found, and in this crucible of peril, the reunion of Caleb and Ayani would be tested in ways neither could have anticipated. The first confrontation came just as the morning sun pierced the horizon. Dust clouds rose as horseback riders approached, weapons gleaming in the early light. Caleb's hand went to his revolver, muscles coiled like steel springs, but Ayani did not flinch. She drew her bow, the arrow singing through the air with precision that left even seasoned cowboys in awe. Together, they faced the onslaught, a seamless partnership forged in shared courage and mutual trust. The townsfolk watched, astonished, as the duo fought with a combination of strategy, skill, and sheer determination. The bandits, expecting an easy victory, found themselves outmatched by a team that combined decades of experience with a bond that no man could break. Hours passed, and the last of the attackers were driven off, leaving the town in stunned silence. And Caleb's heart racing, he turned to Ayani, seeing not the girl he had once saved, but a woman who had become his equal, his companion, and his love. In the quiet aftermath, words finally found. "Them you came all this way for me?" Caleb asked, his voice thick with emotion. Ayani smiled, placing a hand on his weathered shoulder. "I came because you believed in me once, and I have never forgotten. 20 years may have passed, but some things, some bonds, are eternal." That evening, the town gathered to celebrate, a rare moment of joy in a land often ruled by hardship and uncertainty. The sheriff offered a nod of respect. The children stared in awe, and even the stoic ranchers raised a glass in quiet admiration. Caleb and Ayani stood together, hands intertwined, their story now woven into the fabric of the frontier itself. And as they looked toward the horizon, toward the endless plains that had once separated them, they understood that love, courage, and destiny were stronger than time, stronger than danger, and stronger than the vast, untamed wilderness around them. For viewers watching this story, Know that the frontier is more than dust and danger. It is a place where miracles happen, where love survives, and where the brave hearts of the past echo into the present. If you've enjoyed the tale of Caleb and Ayani, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us for more unforgettable stories from the American frontier, stories that will capture your imagination and touch your soul, because in a world where every day brings new challenges, every story like this reminds us that courage, love, and destiny can prevail, no matter how wild the West may seem. And as the camera pans across the vast open plains, with Caleb and Ayani silhouetted against the dying light, one thing is certain: the lost Apache girl has returned, not as a child in need, but as a partner, a warrior, and a bride, ready to write the next chapter of a life. Forged in the fires of destiny,